To create these simple slides, you first start by creating your insole board, and these are the materials you'll be needing: your sole of choice, scissors, chalk, your Mako 8, I'm using Mako 8 and leather. So first you start by creating your insole board, and you'll be outlining the edge of your sole with your chalk, just to make sure that the outline comes out. So you outline it with your chalk, and then you place it on your Mako of choice. I'm using Mako 8 Press it either with your hand or with a hammer to make sure that the outline shows, and then you go into cut on that inner line. That's the line that you're going to be cutting out, gently making sure that your hand is straight. So after cutting it, you place it on your sole to check if it fits. So it's supposed to sit into your sole properly. But if you notice that some parts are sticking out, you can still go in again to cut it out. Then you place it again, hammer it, and make sure that it sits in your sole properly. You do the same thing for the other leg. Outline your sole, place it on your Mako, cut, and your insole boards are ready. For step 2, we're going to be wrapping the insole board with our leather. So you'll be needing the insole board that you created, your rough sandpaper, pen, gum, gum brush, and your leather. Next, using your rough sandpaper, you're going to be scratching the sides of your insole board, making sure that it is smooth all around the insole board. So you're going to scratch it all around. Do it for both legs, and then you move on to the next step, which is to mark our insole board on our leather of choice. For the leather, whatever leather you are going to be using, you have to test it for stretch. So you check which side is more stretchy. That's the side that you are going to be wrapping your insole boards towards. So I'm going to place my insole boards towards the side that is more stretchy, making sure to leave half an inch round the insole board, half an inch space around the insole board for folding. That's my folding allowance. So after doing that, I'll mark it and then place the other one upside down, facing, and then also making sure to leave half an inch and then mark round. So after doing this, the next step is to apply my gum. So I'm going to apply the gum on the Mako first, making sure that they are facing each other before I apply. So I'm going to apply the gum all around the top of the Mako and also on the sides of the Mako, making sure that my gum application is very seamless and all parts of my Mako is coated with gum. And next, I'm going to also apply gum on the parts of the leather that I marked out, including the half an inch allowance that we gave for folding. So I'm going to mark out, apply gum on all of those parts. After I'm done applying the gum, I'll wait for my gum to dry. Once I touch it and it is feeling dry, I'll place my Mako. So that's when you place your Mako and then you smoothen out the other parts of your leather. And also to fold, apply gum round the edges of your Mako like you've seen me do before cutting. So you go on to apply gum before cutting, and you might also notice that the gum is dry. You can still reapply the gum. So now this is where it gets tricky. Folding might be a little bit tricky. So fold from one side, and when you get to a curved part, you fold as if you are pleating cloth. So you drag your pleats all the way down, and then you can use your thumb, the sides of your thumb, to also lay down your excess, your allowance as well. You can do that all around your curved edges, making sure that you're using your thumb to place all the pleated parts away from the feathered edge. Another way to do it is to make sure that you turn it upside down so that it faces you, and then you start pleating, making sure that there's no wrinkled part on the feathered edge. So you pleat into the under of your marco, making sure that there's no wrinkled parts on your feathered edge, and then you use your thumb to lay it flat like I'm doing in the video. And once you do that, your insole boards are ready. So in the next part, we are going to be working on our upper. To create the upper, you'll be needing your lining of choice, your last, and your upper material. So first, you need to mark out the length of your shoe. So I'm working with a size 45 so I'm marking out the length so that I have excess on the bottom for folding, and my marking amounted to 28 centimeter. So depending on the size that you are using, it can be smaller, it can be larger, but I'm using 28 centimeter. So now on my leather, I'm going to be marking out 28 centimeter by 4.5. So if you want yours to be wider, you can make it 5 centimeter. But mine, I want my own to not be too wide, so I made it 4.5 centimeter. So I went on to mark out 4 pieces of this 4.5 centimeter by 28 centimeter. So I marked it out and I connected it with a straight line and I cut. For this design, I'm making a simple scissors or cross pattern, which is a very simple slide that you can make for guys. So after cutting it out, the next step I like to do is to apply my gum. So I like to apply my gum before I cut out the leather because I'm not going to be sewing out this pattern. I'm not going to be sewing. So I want to apply the gum twice so that the gum sticks very well. So the first application is after I draw out my pattern and then I cut it out. After cutting it out, I place it on my lining leather to check the parts that I'm going to be marking. So I place it on my lining leather and I mark it out. That's the part I'm going to apply gum. I mark it out very well so that it's visible for me to see where I'm applying my gum to. So after placing it and marking, I'm going to apply gum. So don't forget to applying gum twice because we are not going to be sewing this pattern and we need the gum to stick very well to our leather, or we need our leathers to stick very well together. So I'm applying gum and then I'm also going to be allowing it to dry very well before placing. So after placing, you can go into hammer it to cement them together, cut out your upper, and your upper is ready for the next step. So the next step is to last your upper to your insole. So before I do that, I like to go in to coat the edges of my uppers with dye. You can use a brown dye or a black dye. That's a dye that is close to the color of leather or upper that you're working with. So in this case, I didn't have a brown dye, so I'm using a black dye just to give the edges of my upper a very good finishing. So the next step is to apply gum for lasting. So I'm going to be placing my uppers the way I want to last them. It's going to be a cross pattern. That's why I'm placing it cross like that, and then going in to apply gum on my insole and on my upper. So now, as a beginner, lasting directly on the last can be very tricky for you, especially how to get the front part. So this is my trick. Place your hand on your marco, making sure that the tip of your hand, that's the longest part of your finger, is touching the tip of the marco. And see those parts that I indicated earlier, that's where you're going to mark. and that's where you're going to place the first part of your leather. And then on the sides, make sure that you are placing your sides to the end of the instep. That's where the instep of the last ends. That's where you're going to place the last part. So now you transfer the markings to the second leg, and then you do the same lacing process. And then the next step is your soling process. Before you apply gum for soling, you want to scratch the inside of your soles very, very well so that gums can adhere to your soles very, very well. So after scratching, you go ahead to apply your gum on both legs and also apply gum on your insole, the under part of your insole. So you allow it to dry, or you can use your heat gun to fasten the drying process, and then you place. So you notice that there are some parts that are open. You can go in with your glue to stick them down. So you place from the bottom and then the top, and then you push them in, making sure that all parts are sitting in your sole very, very well. So the next step is your finishing process. That's after you hammer, you finish, and you clean. So to clean now, you can use pieces of your leather with gum on it to clean the sides of your soles, because you might have applied gum when you were gumming the sole. After doing that, you can now use your glue to close off any openings on your sole. So you have to make sure that you are pressing as you are applying the glue bit by bit. Do not apply too much glue, just a little bit. When you are done, clean it with kerosene and your slides are ready.